What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and on today's episode of the podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about pain. We're going to talk about overthinking. We're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about anxiety. And the reason why we're going to talk about these things is because I bet that every single person who's listening to this podcast has, within the last week, struggled with pain, with anxiety, or with stress, or all of the above, if you're lucky. But I want you to look at it from a different perspective, and I'm going to help you overcome these things. Maybe not every single time, because there are going to be times in life where pain, anxiety, stress gets the best of us, but we can't stay there. And one of the things that's helped me, especially over the last couple months since I've been dealing with this back injury since July, is reminding myself that this too shall pass. It's literally something that I've been saying multiple times throughout my day. When the pain gets intense, when my anxiety gets high, when I'm excessively stressed, whether it be something related to the business or something related to training or something related to the frustration that I'm dealing with my back, I keep reminding myself that this too shall pass. The highs pass, the lows pass. That's why in life we go through those ebbs and flows. We have highs, we have lows. And it's important to recognize that no matter what, both of those things will pass. You won't always be in a high, you won't always be in a low. So you have to appreciate the time that you have in each one of those things. I said it on the last episode of the podcast that when a lot of people are facing pain, anxiety, stress, when they're facing those lows, they try to distract themselves from that pain in order to be able to get through it. And distraction from pain, there isn't necessarily a problem with it, right? Because then you're going to be able to better get through it. And a lot of people won't have to deal with the anxiety of overthinking the pain. However, a lot of the times when you truly lean into that pain, when you lean into that discomfort, when you lean into that stress, you're able to get much more out of the experience than you would have if you completely distracted yourself and detached from the experience. Pain, suffering, it's our greatest teachers. I think I've said that on every single episode of the podcast over the last couple months. Pain and discomfort are our greatest teachers. And man, I'm being taught so much lately. And over the last couple weeks, ever since I flared up my back, I think it's been 3 weeks since that happened. And this time was worse than the other times. Like July is when I initially hurt the back. And I think at that point it was like a pinched nerve, maybe a muscle spasm, maybe a muscle strain with the pinched nerve. And then each and every time that I flared it up and kept pinching that nerve, I think this last time I herniated a disc or I did something to a disc, because with that flare up, I felt a pop and the pain has just been much more intense and much different. But luckily, I'm working with an incredible chiropractor who is helping me through this. And I have an incredible coach. I have 2 incredible coaches who are in my corner who are helping me through this, not just physically, but mentally. And I have an amazing support system. So I also have an incredible mindset when it comes to this. Do I have moments when the pain gets to me? Yeah, absolutely. Last night, I broke down crying. It happens. It's part of it. It's part of the journey. But the thing is, I didn't stay there, and I didn't use that as an excuse to lay in bed all day and just feel sorry for myself. And that's where a lot of people find themselves. I have somebody in my family who herniated 4 discs, and that person allowed the pain to stop them and inevitably allowed the pain to leak into an addiction that destroyed our family. I refuse to allow that to happen because it's a mindset. And I had something that my chiropractor actually said to me the other day that I want to share with you guys, because I think it's so important to remember that unfortunately we live in a world where the medical system likes to fearmonger and likes to make people feel helpless. So I told him that I was struggling a little bit mentally when it came to my back. And I told him the issues that my family member had with this that scared me. And he said, herniated discs are not as scary as you think. They're not as debilitating as you'd think. They are not as harmful as you'd think. Our traditional medical system scares us. And then we become scared. Then we act scared. Then we hurt more. We don't move. We feel like we can't, or it will get worse and turn into inactive beings. That's not the way it has to be. Though that's the way our traditional system guides us, there's a ton of research supporting that. And it's the new thought process moving forward with many physicians. So you're in good hands. And the one thing that I want to highlight here, which is where we're going to get into the topic of the episode, is our traditional medical system scares us, and then we become scared, and then we act scared, and then we hurt more. I saw a quote earlier this week that was, worrying is watering the problem. And you can use this as worrying about physical pain or worrying about any sort of emotional thing that you're going through. Overthinking pain can make it worse. It's physiologically proven through research. And I want you throughout this entire episode to think about pain, like I said earlier, in a physical sense, like, ow, my back hurts. But I also want you to think of pain more from an emotional standpoint, like, oh, my heart hurts. Like, oh, my soul hurts, right? Oh, something's bothering me. I feel broken. Now, pain is a universal experience. Every single person on this planet has experienced pain, knows what pain feels like. However, the difference, and it's a big difference, is how each person perceives and responds to this pain. It varies vastly depending on the person's emotional state. It's also a very complex experience shaped by our brain. So our brain processes the pain signals and then determines the pain's intensity, and that intensity is often influenced by our emotional and psychological factors, by our emotional and psychological well-being. So when we focus excessively on pain, our brain's interpretations of these pain signals can increase, thus making the pain worse. The more you think about pain, the more you focus on the pain, the more attention that you give to the pain, the worse the pain becomes, the worse the problem becomes. I'm sure you can take a moment right now to look back in your life at a moment when you focused heavily on some sort of physical or emotional pain, and it made it in that moment seem way more impossible than it did when you weren't thinking about it. Because I can definitely think about tons of moments when I was feeling optimistic about my back versus when I was feeling very hopeless about my back. In the moments when I felt hopeless, the pain was way worse, versus when I felt optimistic, the pain was way less. And a lot of us, what happens is we enter into a cycle, a pain, anxiety, stress cycle, where the pain causes anxiety, which then causes our stress hormones to increase, like cortisol. And then our elevated stress hormones can actually heighten the body's sensitivity to the pain and decrease its ability to manage that pain effectively. So pain and anxiety feed off of each other. The more pain you're in, the more attention that you give it, the more overthinking that you do, the more anxiety you develop, and the more sensitive you become to the pain. Now, on top of this, there's actual science that shows this. So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to recognize itself by forming new neural connections. It's basically how our brain forms new patterns. Now, chronic overthinking about pain can reinforce neural pathways associated with pain perception, making the brain more efficient at generating pain signals. You can literally overthink your way into more pain over time. So if you're constantly overthinking pain and you're always looking for pain, then your brain is going to literally change itself neurologically to constantly be looking for pain and enhance your perception of that pain. So overthinking pain also causes hypervigilance, which is basically when you are excessively alert to your body sensations. So think of like somebody in your life who's a hypochondriac. My grandma's a hypochondriac. So every single little feeling that she feels is a big fucking deal. And I'm sure that if you're in a pain or a place where you're excessively anxious or stressed or in a lot of pain, you are more alert to everything that's going on in your body, like every little feeling. Like, say my back hurts, right? And now I'm all of a sudden overthinking like this little feeling that I'm getting in my toe. Like, is it related? Is is the disc impacting that, and all of these different emotional stressors that then heighten our body's anxiety, which then heightens stress, which then heightens the pain. Emotional distress does this too, because when you're overthinking pain, it's often going to cause more emotional distress. You're going to be more frustrated. You're going to be helpless. You're going to have depression. And emotional distress can lower your ability to handle pain. That makes you more susceptible to feeling the pain and less capable of coping with it. So how do you combat this? How do you overcome this? A lot of it comes down to how you talk to yourself and the story that you tell yourself when it comes to the pain. And I could tell you so many different strategies that you could Google, like, doing cognitive behavioral therapy or doing physical therapy or doing any sort of like social support or relaxation techniques or meditation and mindfulness. But I'm going to tell you what's helped me. Number one, taking action to curing the pain or to fixing the problem. So I'm working, like I said, with a chiropractor. I'm working with a PT. I'm working with an incredible group of people who are helping me move forward. I'm doing things on my end to enhance my recovery, specifically focusing on sleep and nutrition, so that way I can make sure that I'm fueling my body enough so that it can recover from what I'm doing. I also have an incredible support system through my husband, through my dog that's barking. He's great, especially when he barks on the podcast because he just wants to be featured. I get it. But what you need to understand is even if you're alone in this situation, you feel like you have nobody else, you always have yourself. And at the end of the day, that's the person that you're always going to have no matter what. So you need to change the story that you tell yourself, because it doesn't matter if you have an incredible support system. It doesn't matter if you do physical therapy. It doesn't matter if you do all these cool relaxation techniques and use these peptides and red light therapy and focus on your nutrition. All of that doesn't matter unless you change the story and the way that you talk to yourself. So like I've said, a few things that I've been telling myself that have been helping me in moments when I'm in extreme pain or in moments when I find that I am overthinking, which have come a lot more over the past couple of weeks. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I literally had a panic attack on Wednesday during my workout while I was doing deadlifts because I was overthinking every little pull or every little pain that I felt in my body. Every single rep freaked me out because I was afraid that that rep would be the rep that would mess me up. But that, in turn, is going to mess me up because I'm less focused on what I'm doing. And I'm more panicky. My breathing's off. That makes me more susceptible to injuring myself. So in that moment, when I was having that moment, when I was panicking a little bit, I literally took a marker and I wrote on the whiteboard, "Caitlin, you are okay." It's still there. Because I kept it there because I keep looking at it. It's very helpful. So that's one thing that I tell myself. And I think it's so important to not say, "I'm okay," but to say, "Your name, you are okay. Bob, you are okay. Jen, you are okay. Sam, you are okay. Steve, you are okay. Caitlin, you are okay." It's what I've told myself. In moments where I feel like I'm drowning in this anxiety and this pain and this stress, I remind myself that I am okay by talking to myself because it makes it feel more real. There's just something different about it when I say, "Caitlin, you are okay," versus "I'm okay." It's more believable. It feels like somebody else is telling you because sometimes we don't trust ourselves. Another thing that has helped me is telling myself and reminding myself that this too shall pass. This too shall pass. It always does. No matter how horrific things get, no matter how painful things go, it's always temporary. And in the moment, it doesn't feel like it's temporary. It feels like it's never going to end. But I promise that it is. So this too shall pass. And being optimistic. Taking action towards doing the things that are going to make you feel better. Because when you're taking action, then you can back up the words that you're saying with that action. Remember, action cures everything. And the story that you tell yourself matters more than anything. So I hope this episode was helpful for you guys. If it was, please share it with at least one person. Spread the message because I feel like a lot of people need to hear this because a lot of people are dealing with pain, anxiety, and stress and are stuck in this cycle where they feel like they're trapped. But I promise you that you're not. Everything's going to be okay. The pain is temporary and you will make it through this. So go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.